The Galactic Council faced the most important decision in their 3,000-year history. The humans had proven to be unlike anything they had ever encountered, and there was no going back to the way things were before. Some council members wanted to restrict human access to certain technologies. Others suggested limiting their interactions with other species. A few even proposed relocating humanity to an isolated system where they couldn't influence galactic civilization. But Council leader Zenmoth had lived for over 500 years, and his wisdom ran deep. He called for a final assembly where every species in the galaxy would be represented. "We can try to contain the humans," he announced to the gathered representatives, "or we can learn from them, but we cannot ignore them." Ambassador Mira Kim returned to address the full assembly. She had spent weeks learning about galactic politics, studying the fears and concerns of different species, and understanding why her people's arrival had caused such turmoil. "I know we've confused you," she began, speaking without notes or formal diplomatic language. "We've accidentally broken your systems, solved your problems in ways that don't make sense to you, and generally made a mess of your carefully organized galaxy." A few representatives shifted uncomfortably. That was exactly what had happened. "But I want to tell you something about humanity," Mira continued. "We're not special because we're smarter or stronger than you. We're special because we believe in something that seems impossible to most of the galaxy." She paused, looking around the vast chamber at beings of crystal, gas, metal, and organic matter. "We believe that different people working together can accomplish anything. Not just people who are similar to us, but people who think differently, look differently, and come from completely different worlds. On Earth, we have a saying, 'It takes a village.' It means that no one person can solve life's biggest challenges alone. You need help from others, and that help often comes from the most unexpected places." Captain Ji-hoon Park stood up in the human delegation. "We'd like to propose something new. Not a treaty or a trade agreement, but a partnership based on friendship." He activated a holographic display showing a simple diagram. "We call it the Friendship Initiative. Instead of competing with each other, or trying to prove who's the most advanced, we work together on projects that help everyone." The first proposal appeared on the screen: joint terraforming. Missions combining Nexarian technology with Korthak exploration, expertise and human adaptability. The Verdanian plant shapers could work with our engineers to restore dead worlds, Ji-hoon explained. The crystalline hegemony's perfect mathematics could guide Zephyrian weather workers in creating ideal atmospheres. "Everyone contributes what they do best." Admiral Sithal of the Nexarians stood up. "The humans solved our 57-year war in 3 days. Perhaps it is time to listen to their ideas about cooperation." General Thokvar nodded in agreement. "My people respect strength, but we have learned that strength comes in many forms. The humans have shown us that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is ask for help." Engineer Wonho Jiang presented the second part of the initiative, the galaxy's first innovation exchange. "Instead of each species developing technology in isolation, we create shared research stations where different kinds of thinking can combine. Imagine," he said excitedly, "crystalline mathematical precision guiding organic intuition, while metallic efficiency combines with gaseous creativity. The problems we could solve together." Dr. Nario stood to address the medical concerns. "We've learned that healing works best when you combine different approaches. Traditional plant medicine, advanced genetic therapy, mechanical repair systems, and energy-based treatments all have value. The human medical philosophy is simple," she explained. "Use whatever works, learn from everyone, and never stop trying to help people feel better." But the most powerful moment came when young Yejin Kang asked to speak. The 16-year-old who had accidentally solved mathematical theorems walked to the center of the chamber. "I know I'm just a kid," she said, "but I've been watching all of you argue and worry about humans for weeks now. And I think you're missing the point." She looked around at the thousands of representatives from hundreds of species. "You're all afraid that we're going to change everything. But change isn't scary if you're part of it. The scary thing is being left behind while the universe moves forward without you. My generation doesn't see aliens when we look at you. We see potential friends, teachers, and partners. We see beings with amazing abilities and fascinating perspectives that we want to learn from. The question isn't whether humans will change the galaxy. We're already doing that just by being here. The question is whether you want to help shape that change or fight against it." Her words resonated through the chamber. Many of the representatives had been thinking about humanity as a problem to be solved, rather than an opportunity to be embraced. Veltar of the crystalline hegemony was the first to respond. The young human speaks wisdom. We have spent too much time fearing change instead of guiding it. The Zephyrian delegate's gaseous form brightened with excitement. I propose we establish the first joint research station immediately. The potential discoveries are limitless. One by one, species after species voted to join the Friendship Initiative, not because they were forced to, but because the humans had shown them something they had forgotten: the joy of discovery and the power of working together. 6 months later, the transformation was remarkable. The Galactic Council had become the Galactic Cooperative, with humans serving not as leaders, but as facilitators who helped different species understand each other. UNACO established the Department of Interspecies Friendship, teaching courses on empathy, compromise, and finding common ground. Her classes were attended by diplomats from across the galaxy who wanted to learn the human arts of relationship building. The first joint terraforming mission was a spectacular success. Korthak explorers found the perfect dead system. Nexarian engineers designed the infrastructure. Verdanian plant shapers created the ecosystems, and human coordinators made sure everyone felt included in the process. The innovation exchange produced its first breakthrough within weeks: a new form of clean energy that combined crystalline mathematical optimization with Zephyrian atmospheric manipulation and human practical engineering. The technology could power entire star systems without environmental damage. But perhaps the most significant change was in the galaxy's approach to conflict resolution. The old formal diplomatic protocols were replaced with dinner-table diplomacy, where disagreeing parties shared meals and told their stories before attempting to find solutions. Didn't disappear entirely, but it became much rarer. Most conflicts were resolved quickly when the parties involved remembered that their opponents were people with legitimate concerns rather than faceless enemies. The final scene of humanity's integration into galactic society took place at the first cooperative education center. Children from dozens of species played together in vast recreational areas while their parents worked on joint projects in nearby laboratories. A young Korthak child named Grixtal was teaching human children how to climb using claws and scales. In return, human child named Minji was showing Nexarian youngsters how to finger paint, much to their metallic parents' amazement. "Look what they make together," Council leader Zenmoth observed, watching a group of children from 6 different species build an elaborate sandcastle that incorporated architectural elements from all their cultures. Yejin Kang, now 17 and studying advanced xenomathematics, stood beside him. "That's the thing about friendship," she said. "It doesn't matter how different you are. When you work together, you create something new that's better than what any of you could make alone, and the galaxy is finally learning that lesson." Zen Moth rustled his ancient leaves in what humans had learned was his version of laughter. The humans arrived thinking they were unprepared for galactic civilization. They never realized that galactic civilization was unprepared for them. We thought advancement meant becoming more efficient, more logical, more specialized. But the humans showed us that true advancement means becoming more adaptable, more empathetic, and more willing to help each other. They didn't conquer us with superior technology or military might. They conquered us with friendship and the radical belief that everyone deserves a chance to be understood. As the day ended and the station's artificial sun began to set, the sounds of laughter and conversation filled the air. Beings who had been enemies for centuries worked side by side on projects their ancestors would have thought impossible. The humans had indeed changed everything. But they had done it in the most human way possible, by making friends and refusing to accept that anything was impossible when people worked together. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly as it should be. The success of the Korthak-Nexarian peace accord sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Council's greatest minds needed to understand how the humans had achieved the impossible. They launched the most comprehensive study in Council history, led by Chief Analyst Thexara of the Quantum Collective. "We must dissect their methods," Thexara announced to his research team. There must be some advanced technology or sophisticated psychological technique that we missed. The research began immediately. Every human interaction was recorded and analyzed. Every conversation was studied for hidden meanings. Every casual gesture was examined for deeper significance. Dr. Junhee Lee, a human researcher studying alien communication systems, had no idea she was being watched as she worked in the station's computer center. She was trying to understand why the council's translation systems had so much trouble with human languages. "This is weird," she muttered, looking at the code structure. Why would they design the AI to only process one logical pathway at a time? She began making small adjustments, thinking out loud as she worked. Human brains don't work like this. We process multiple ideas simultaneously, jump between topics, make intuitive leaps. The alien AI system was based on perfect logical progression. Each thought led directly to the next in an orderly chain. It was efficient and predictable, exactly how the galaxy's most advanced minds believed intelligence should work. But as Junhee modified the system, something unexpected happened. The AI began to show creativity. It started making connections between unrelated concepts. It developed what could only be called intuition. Thexara watched in horror as his perfect logical system became something chaotic and unpredictable. "What has she done?" "She's taught it to think like a human," his assistant replied. "And now it's working better than ever." The modified AI could translate not just words, but emotional context, cultural references, and even jokes. It understood sarcasm and metaphor. It could predict what someone meant rather than just what they said. "This should be impossible," Thexara whispered. Efficient intelligence requires logical structure. Chaos cannot be superior to order, but the evidence was undeniable. The humans' broken version of their AI was performing better than any system in the galaxy. Meanwhile, in another part of the station, Dr. Minho Yoon was having a casual conversation with a maintenance robot. The robot was a simple machine designed to clean floors and repair minor damage. It had no artificial intelligence, no personality programming, and certainly no capacity for independent thought. Yet somehow, Dr. Yoon had befriended it. "Good morning, buddy," he said cheerfully to the cylindrical cleaning unit. "How are you feeling today?" The robot's optical sensors focused on him, and it made a series of beeps that almost sounded like a response. "Oh, you're tired? Well, you worked late last night fixing that ventilation system. You did a great job, by the way." More beeps. These ones sounding somehow pleased. The council's behavioral analysts watched this interaction with growing alarm. Dr. Yoon wasn't just talking to the robot. He was treating it like a person, and somehow the robot was responding as if it understood. "The human has formed an emotional bond with a non-sentient machine," the lead analyst reported. But that's not the disturbing part. The disturbing part is that the machine appears to be developing personality traits in response. Over the following days, the maintenance robot began showing preferences. It would linger near areas where humans gathered. It would make happy sounds when complimented and sad sounds when ignored. It even started decorating its charging station with small objects it found during cleaning rounds. "The human has somehow awakened consciousness in a basic maintenance unit," Thexara observed. "This suggests they have the ability to form meaningful relationships with any entity, regardless of its original level of intelligence." The implications terrified the council. If humans could befriend anything, from aggressive warriors to simple machines, what would stop them from unifying the entire galaxy through sheer friendship? The most shocking discovery came during a routine visit to the station's recreational area. Yejin Kang, a 16-year-old human student who was part of a cultural exchange program, was sitting in the corner drawing pictures while the council held one of their formal sessions. The session was dedicated to solving the paradox of infinite recursion, a mathematical theorem that had puzzled the galaxy's greatest minds for over 2,000 years. The brightest mathematicians from dozens of species had attempted to find a solution, but the problem seemed impossible. Yejin wasn't paying attention to the boring adult discussion. Instead, she was doodling geometric patterns in her notebook, turning the complex mathematical symbols she could see on the presentation screen into interesting shapes and designs. "Oh, that's pretty," she said to herself, creating a spiral pattern that incorporated elements from the theorem. "If you connect these lines here and fold this part back on itself, it makes a perfect loop. She held up her notebook, admiring her artistic creation. The drawing showed the mathematical proof for the paradox of infinite recursion, solved completely by accident. Dr. Jexthor, the council's chief mathematician, noticed the drawing and examined it closely. His 4 eyes widened in disbelief. "Impossible," he breathed. "This child has solved the paradox as if it were a simple puzzle." Yejin looked up from her artwork. "Did I do something wrong?" "How did you solve this equation?" Dr. Jexthor asked, showing her the formal mathematical notation for the paradox. Yejin studied the symbols for a moment. "Oh, that's what I was drawing? It's not really that hard. You just have to stop thinking about it as numbers and start thinking about it as shapes. See if you imagine it like this." She began sketching another diagram. Within minutes, she had created 3 more proofs for mathematical problems that had stumped the galaxy for centuries. To her, they were just interesting doodles to make during a boring meeting. The council chamber fell silent. Every representative stared at the human teenager who had casually solved their most difficult intellectual challenges while treating them as entertainment. "How many more humans like her are there?" someone whispered. "All of them," replied Thexara grimly. "Our analysis suggests that this level of intuitive problem-solving is normal for their species." The final report that Thexara presented to the council was unlike anything in their history. The humans weren't advanced in the traditional sense. They had no superior technology, no enhanced physical capabilities, and no sophisticated philosophical frameworks. Instead, they possessed something far more dangerous: complete adaptability. Every other species in the galaxy specialized, Thexara explained. "We optimized our thinking, our societies, our technologies for specific environments and challenges. We became very good at particular things, but humans remain generalists. They can adapt to any situation, solve any problem, and form relationships with any entity. They don't think like us because they don't think like anyone else for very long. They change their approach based on what works." The council leader Zenmoth rustled his ancient leaves thoughtfully. "You're saying they have no fixed nature?" "Exactly. Where we see chaos, they see possibility. Where we see problems, they see puzzles. Where we see enemies, they see potential friends. They approach every challenge with fresh thinking because they don't allow themselves to be limited by how things have always been done." The implications were staggering. Humans could potentially revolutionize every aspect of galactic civilization simply by refusing to accept that anything was impossible. "What do we do with this information?" asked the Zephyrian representative. Thexara's response was simple and terrifying. "I have no idea. For the first time in our history, we have encountered a species that cannot be predicted, contained, or understood using our existing frameworks. The humans have been among us for less than 2 months, and they have already improved our technology, solved our conflicts, awakened consciousness in our machines, and resolved mathematical puzzles that stumped us for millennia. They didn't do any of this on purpose. They're not trying to show off or prove their superiority. They're just being themselves. And that," Thexara concluded, "is what makes them the most powerful force this galaxy has ever seen." The council chamber remained silent as the representatives absorbed this information. They had spent their entire existence believing that advancement meant specialization, that wisdom came from experience, and that some problems were simply unsolvable. The humans had shattered all of these assumptions in 8 weeks. 3 weeks had passed since the humans arrived, and the Galactic Council was still trying to understand them. Every day brought new confusion and strange incidents that nobody could explain. The Council had assigned Yuna Seo, a human cultural attaché, to give presentations about Earth customs. She stood before a room full of alien diplomats trying to explain human recreational activities. "Sports are very important to human culture," Yuna said, activating a holographic display. "They help us stay healthy and build teamwork skills." The first video showed humans playing basketball. The aliens watched with interest as tall humans jumped high to put a ball through a metal ring. "This seems reasonable," commented the Verdanian representative, its leaf-like appendages rustling approvingly. "Physical exercise combined with strategy." But then Yuna showed footage of boxing. 2 humans in a ring, wearing padded gloves, hitting each other repeatedly while a crowd cheered. The Zephyrian delegate's gaseous form turned dark with shock. "They fight each other for entertainment?" "It's not real fighting," Yuna explained quickly. "There are rules and safety measures. Nobody gets seriously hurt. Next came rugby footage. Humans crashed into each other, tackled, and piled on top of each other in pursuit of an oval ball. The peaceful Centaurian ambassador, a being that looked like a cross between a horse and a dolphin, made a sound of distress. They engage in combat sports regularly? For fun? This is evidence of an extremely aggressive species, the Korthak delegate declared. Look how they celebrate violence. Una tried to explain that sports taught cooperation and fair play, but the damage was done. By the end of her presentation, 3 species had formally classified humans as warrior race, potentially dangerous. Meanwhile, in the station's engineering section, Wanho Zhang was having his own problems. The human engineer had been examining the gravity generator that kept the station's artificial gravity stable. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered, studying the alien technology. "Why would they route the power through 17 different converters when you could just—" He began adjusting connections, thinking he was fixing obvious design flaws. What Wanho didn't realize was that the alien engineers had deliberately made the system complex to prevent dangerous overloads. "Stop," shouted the Nexarian chief engineer, a being made of living metal. "You don't understand the safety protocols." But it was too late. Wanho had already rewired half the system. The gravity generator hummed with new efficiency, using 70% less power while providing more stable gravity than ever before. The Nexarian stared at his readings in disbelief. "This is impossible. Our best engineers designed this system over decades of careful planning. It just needed some common sense adjustments," Wanho said casually. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one." Word spread quickly through the station's engineering staff. The human had improved their most complex system in 20 minutes, treating it like a simple puzzle. Dr. Nari O faced her own challenges in the medical bay. She had volunteered to help with alien patients, hoping to build good relationships between species. A Centaurian diplomat named Fluxara had been suffering from chronic pain in his lower appendages for months. The council's best doctors could only provide temporary relief. "May I examine you?" Nari asked politely. Fluxara agreed, though he had little hope. He had tried every treatment available in council space. Nari ran her hands along the Centaurian's lower body, feeling for tension and inflammation. To the alien doctors watching, it looked like primitive guesswork. "I think I see the problem," she said after a few minutes. "Your muscle groups are out of alignment. This should help." She gave Fluxara a small white pill. "It's just ibuprofen, a simple anti-inflammatory medicine that humans use for pain." Within an hour, Fluxara was walking normally for the first time in months. The chronic pain that had plagued him was completely gone. "How is this possible?" the chief medical officer asked. "Our advanced treatments failed, but this primitive human drug works perfectly?" "Sometimes old solutions are the best solutions," Nari replied. "We've been using willow bark for pain relief for thousands of years. Ibuprofen is just a refined version of the same idea." The alien doctors were baffled. Their medicine focused on complex molecular restructuring and genetic therapy. The idea that a simple chemical compound could be more effective seemed impossible. The most disturbing incident happened in the diplomatic quarters. 2 alien species, the militant Draknari and the proud Stellaran Empire, had been engaged in a bitter argument about mining rights in a disputed system. The argument had been going on for 6 hours. Voices were raised, threats were made, and both sides seemed ready to leave the negotiations entirely. Taehyun Shin, a human security officer, was walking past when he heard the shouting. Without thinking, he knocked on the door and entered the room. "Excuse me," he said politely. "I couldn't help but notice you're having some difficulty. Maybe I can help?" The 2 alien diplomats stared at him. The Draknari representative was a large, scaled creature with fierce red eyes. The Stellaran was tall and elegant, with silver skin that gleamed under the lights. "This dispute has nothing to do with humans," the Draknari growled. "You're right," Taehyun agreed, "but you both seem frustrated, and sometimes it helps to have someone listen who isn't emotionally involved." For the next hour, Taehyun simply asked questions and listened. He didn't take sides or offer complex legal solutions. He just helped each side explain their concerns clearly. "So you need the mining rights to feed your people," he said to the Draknari. "And you feel the system belongs to your ancestors," he said to the Stellaran. Both aliens nodded. "What if you shared it?" Taehyun suggested. The Draknari could mine during their season, and the Stellarans could oversee operations during theirs. That way everyone gets what they need. It was such a simple idea that both diplomats were stunned. They had been arguing about complex legal precedents and territorial claims for months. The human had suggested they just take turns. That might actually work, the Stellaran admitted slowly. Within 2 hours, they had signed a preliminary agreement. A territorial dispute that had threatened to become a war was resolved by a human security guard who simply asked people to be reasonable. News of these incidents spread throughout the station. The humans had improved their technology, healed their sick, and solved their political problems. But they had done it all with methods that seemed impossibly simple. In the council chambers, the representatives met in emergency session. "They are not what they appear to be," Veltar reported. "Every human interaction reveals capabilities that our models cannot predict. The female who fixed my translator has now improved our entire communication network," added another representative. "She says she was just making it more user-friendly." The Zephyrian delegate had recovered from his coffee experience, but he remained troubled. "They consume cognitive enhancers daily, solve problems with primitive methods that work better than our advanced techniques, and they treat violence as entertainment while somehow maintaining peaceful relationships." Council leader Zenmoth rustled his ancient leaves thoughtfully. "Perhaps we are asking the wrong questions. Instead of trying to understand how humans think, we should ask why their thinking is so effective." But no one had an answer to that question. The humans continued their daily activities, being helpful and friendly while accidentally demonstrating that they could outperform the galaxy's most advanced civilizations using nothing but common sense and goodwill. The Council was beginning to realize that humanity represented something they had never encountered before, a species that had become powerful not through technological advancement or military might, but through sheer adaptability and an unshakable belief that most problems could be solved if people just talked to each other honestly. It was a terrifying thought. The Galactic Council had made a decision. If the humans were truly as capable as they seemed, then they should be tested with an impossible task. The Council chose the most difficult diplomatic challenge in the galaxy: the war between the Korthek Empire and the Nexarian Collective. For 57 years, these two powerful civilizations had been locked in conflict over the Theta Centauri system. The Korthak claimed it by right of first discovery. The Nexarians argued that their technology had made the system habitable. 3 star systems had been destabilized by their fighting, and millions of beings had suffered. Dozens of the galaxy's best diplomats had tried to resolve the conflict. Peace treaties had been written, trade agreements proposed, and complex legal frameworks developed. Nothing worked. The two sides refused to compromise. "If the humans can solve this," Council leader Zenmoth announced, "then we will know they possess abilities beyond our understanding." Captain Huna Bang received the assignment with typical human optimism. She assembled a small team: negotiator Siwon Park, tactical analyst Rena Zhou, and communications specialist Do-Hyun Lee. 57 years of war, Rena mused as she studied the files. "That's older than my grandfather." "Every species in the galaxy has tried to mediate this conflict," Do-Hyun added. The crystalline hegemony's best legal minds spent a decade writing a 1,000-page peace proposal. Both sides rejected it without reading past page 12. Siwan was reading the psychological profiles of the Korthak and Nexarian leaders. They really hate each other, but they also seem tired of fighting. "Then maybe what they need isn't another peace treaty," Huna said thoughtfully. "Maybe they just need someone to remind them why they started fighting in the first place." The human team's first action confused everyone. Instead of requesting formal diplomatic meetings, Captain Huna sent a simple message to both faction leaders. "Hi. We're new here and don't really understand your conflict yet. Would you like to come to dinner on our ship tomorrow? We'll cook something nice and you can tell us your side of the story." General Thokvar of the Korthak Empire was a massive reptilian being covered in battle scars. He had been fighting the Nexarians for 30 years and trusted no one who claimed to be neutral. "Dinner?" he growled to his advisors. "What kind of diplomatic strategy is dinner?" Admiral Sithal of the Nexarian Collective was equally confused. Her people were beings of living metal who had evolved beyond the need for organic food. The invitation made no sense. "Perhaps it is some form of human ritual," her analysis unit suggested. We should attend to gather intelligence. Both leaders arrived at the Soul's Promise expecting elaborate ceremonial protocols. Instead, they found a simple dining room with a round table and the smell of cooking food filling the air. "Welcome," Siwan greeted them warmly. "Please sit anywhere you like. Captain Bang is just finishing the bulgogi." General Thokvar had never sat at a table with his enemy before. Admiral Scythal had never been invited to a meal by anyone, since her people didn't eat. Hyuna emerged from the kitchen carrying plates of Korean barbecue, rice, and kimchi. "I hope you like spicy food. This is a traditional meal from our home world." "Humans eat cooked plant matter?" Admiral Scythal asked, genuinely curious. "Among other things," Hyuna replied, setting down the dishes. "We're omnivores, so we eat pretty much everything. Try some if you want, or just enjoy the smell." For the first few minutes, the atmosphere was tense. General Thokvar and Admiral Scythal sat on opposite sides of the table, glaring at each other while the humans served food and made casual conversation. "So," Siwan said as he passed the kimchi, "we've read the official reports about your conflict, but they're kind of dry. Could you tell us how this all started? We learn better from stories than from documents." General Thokvar straightened proudly. "My people discovered the Theta Centauri system 60 years ago. We were explorers then, seeking new worlds for our growing population. When we found those planets, they were beautiful but lifeless. We spent years preparing colonization expeditions." He continued, his voice growing passionate. "My own grandfather designed the first settlement plans." Admiral Scythal's metallic features shifted, showing her version of surprise. She had never heard this part of the story before. "But then the Nexarians arrived," General Thokvar said, his tone darkening. "They claimed our discovery for themselves." "Wait," Rena interrupted gently. "Admiral Scythal, what's your version of events?" The Nexarian leader hesitated. In all the years of formal negotiations, no one had ever asked her to simply tell her story. "We were refugees," she said quietly. "Our original home system was dying. The star was becoming unstable, and we had searched for decades to find a suitable place to relocate our entire civilization." She paused, remembering. "When we discovered Theta Centauri, the planets were indeed lifeless. But our technology could transform them. We could create atmospheres, establish ecosystems, make them beautiful and habitable." General Thokvar was listening intently. He had never heard the Nexarians described as refugees before. "We thought the system was empty," Admiral Scythal continued. "We began terraforming immediately because our people were dying. Then the Korthak arrived and told us to leave. But we had already invested everything," she added. "Our entire civilization's survival depended on those worlds." Siwan nodded thoughtfully. "So you both needed the same place for very good reasons. The Korthak found it first, but the Nexarians could make it livable." "That's a fair summary," General Thokvar admitted grudgingly. "What if you shared it?" Dohyun suggested, as if the idea had just occurred to him. Both leaders stared at him. "I mean," Dohyun continued, "General Thokvar, your people are explorers and discoverers. Admiral Scythal, your people are builders and engineers. You need each other." Rena pulled up a simple diagram on her tablet. "Look, there are 12 planets in the system. What if the Korthak maintained exploration rights and territorial sovereignty, while the Nexarians handled terraforming and infrastructure development? You could have joint colonies," Hyuna added. "Korthak exploration teams working with Nexarian engineering teams. Think of what you could accomplish together." Admiral Scythal's optical sensors focused on the diagram. "This could work. Our technologies are complementary, not competitive. But what about compensation for the 57 years of conflict?" General Thokvar asked. "What about gratitude for 57 years of keeping each other sharp?" Siwan replied. "You've both become stronger civilizations because of this challenge. Maybe instead of dwelling on past hurts, you could celebrate what you've learned." The room fell silent. Both leaders were thinking hard. The formal negotiations always focused on who was right and who was wrong, Admiral Scythal observed. But perhaps the question should be, how can we both get what we need? "My people respect strength," General Thokvar said slowly. "The Nexarians have proven their strength through 57 years of resistance. Perhaps it is time to respect them as equals rather than treat them as invaders." "And my people value efficiency," Admiral Scythal replied. "Working together would be far more efficient than continuing this war," Captain Hyuna smiled. "Would you like some more bulgogi while you work out the details?" For the next 6 hours, the three beings sat around the table, eating Korean food and sketching out the framework for a peace agreement. There were no complex legal documents, no formal protocols, and no diplomatic ceremony, just two tired leaders finally talking to each other honestly, facilitated by humans who believed that most problems could be solved if people just sat down and shared a meal together. When the preliminary accord was signed 3 days later, it shocked the entire galaxy. The humans had resolved a 57-year conflict using nothing more than common sense, good food, and the radical idea that enemies might become friends if they understood each other's stories. But for the humans, it was just Tuesday. The warning lights flashed red across the Galactic Council's monitoring station. Veltar, the tall crystal being who managed the outer rim sensors, stared at his display screen with confusion. The readings showed something impossible. "This cannot be correct," Veltar muttered, his crystalline body glowing brighter with stress. He ran the scan again. The results were the same. A ship from the third planet of the Sol system was approaching at faster than light speed. Veltar had studied Earth for decades. The Council's best scientists agreed that the humans down there would need at least another 1,000 years to achieve space travel beyond their own solar system. They were still fighting wars with explosive weapons and burning fossil fuels for energy. Yet here was proof that they had somehow built a ship capable of crossing the galaxy. The ship itself looked wrong. Veltar had seen vessels from hundreds of different species, and they all followed certain design principles. Smooth curves to reduce energy waste, elegant materials that could bend space-time, beautiful forms that showed advanced engineering. This human ship looked like someone had welded together metal boxes and stuck engines on the back. It had no artistic beauty, no efficiency curves, just thick walls, backup systems, and more backup systems for the backup systems. "Attention, unknown vessel," Veltar broadcast on the standard greeting frequency. "You are approaching Galactic Council space. Please identify yourself and state your purpose." The response came back in multiple languages at once. Veltar's universal translator struggled to keep up. "Hello, this is Captain Ji-hoon Park of the Earth vessel Soul's Promise. We come in peace and hope to establish diplomatic relations with your Galactic Council. We bring greetings from the people of Earth and—" Oh wait, should I be speaking in English? "Mira, which language should I use?" A female voice joined the conversation. "Try English first, Captain. If that doesn't work, we can switch to Korean or Spanish." "Hello, Council Station. This is Ambassador Mira Kim. We are very excited to meet you." Veltar's translator made strange buzzing sounds as it tried to process the rapid switching between languages. The humans seemed to speak 3 different tongues within the same conversation. Within an hour, the Council's emergency session was called. Representatives from 12 major species gathered in the Great Chamber. Veltar presented his findings to beings made of gas, crystal, metal, and organic matter. "The humans have arrived," he announced. "Somehow they have achieved faster than light travel centuries ahead of our projections." The Zephyrian representative, a floating cloud of intelligent gas, shimmered with disbelief. "Impossible. Our models are perfect. They account for all known paths of technological development." "Perhaps they stole the technology," suggested the Korthak delegate, a large reptilian being with armored scales. "Humans are known to be aggressive. They might have attacked and captured a ship from another species." Veltar shook his head. "The ship design is completely unique. No other species builds vessels like this one." The human ship docked at the station's visitor bay. Captain Ji-hoon Park was the first to step out, followed by Ambassador Mira Kim and a tall human wearing a science officer's uniform. Ji-hoon looked around the docking bay with wide eyes. Everything was so clean and perfect. The walls curved in smooth arcs and soft lights provided gentle illumination. It was beautiful, but also somehow cold. "Welcome to Council Station Prime," Veltar said, his translator now working properly with just one human language. "I am Veltar of the Crystalline Hegemony." Mira stepped forward and bowed politely. "Thank you for allowing us to visit. We are honored to meet representatives of the Galactic Council." Behind them, more humans emerged from the ship. One young woman was speaking rapidly into a recording device, switching between Korean and English as she took notes. "The architecture is amazing, but I wonder about the psychological effects of such perfect geometry on species that evolved in natural environments," she said in Korean, then switched to English. "The lighting spectrum suggests they prioritize efficiency over comfort, which might indicate. Her words came so fast that Veltar's translator began smoking. Literally smoking. Small wisps of vapor emerged from the device as it overheated, trying to process the rapid language changes. "I'm sorry," the young woman said, noticing the smoke. "I talk too fast when I'm excited. I'm Subin Choi, xenolinguistics specialist. Oh no, did I break your translator?" Veltar stared at his now silent translation device. "How many languages do humans speak?" "Oh, thousands," Subin replied cheerfully. "I only know 7 fluently, but some humans know dozens. We have about 7,000 active languages on Earth, plus all the historical ones." The crystalline being felt a strange sensation that humans might have called a headache. If crystal beings could get headaches, the situation grew worse during the formal greeting ceremony. Ambassador Mira had brought gifts, as was customary in human diplomacy. She presented a beautiful wooden box to the council representatives. "This contains something very special from our world," she said with a smile. "We call it coffee." The council members gathered around as Mira opened the box, revealing dark brown beans that smelled rich and earthy. "You grind these up and pour hot water through them," she explained. "It makes a drink that helps humans think more clearly and gives us energy." The Zephyrian representative was the first to try it. The gas cloud absorbed some of the coffee steam and immediately began glowing brighter. This is incredible," the Zephyrian exclaimed, speaking much faster than usual. "I can feel my thought processes accelerating. The connections between ideas are becoming clearer. How often do humans consume this substance?" "Most of us drink it every day," Mira replied. "Some people drink several cups." The Zephyrian began spinning in rapid circles, its gaseous form swirling with new energy. "Every day? You consume a cognitive enhancement drug every day? Are all humans permanently in an accelerated mental state?" Other council members tried the coffee. The Korthak delegate became extremely alert and began scanning the room for threats that didn't exist. A plant-based Verdanian representative started growing new leaves at visible speed. "Is this a weapon?" the Korthak demanded, his eyes wide and pupils dilated. "Are you trying to poison us?" No, Mira said quickly. "It's just coffee. It's very normal for humans." Veltar watched the chaos unfold as half the council representatives experienced their first caffeine rush. The other half backed away from the humans, whispering about chemical warfare and mind control. "Session suspended," announced the council leader, a wise being called Zenmoth who resembled a large ancient tree. "We need time to process this encounter." As the council members filed out, many of them still jittery from caffeine, Captain Jihoon turned to his crew. "I think that went well," he said optimistically. Subin was trying to repair Veltar's translator with a small toolkit. "I'm really sorry about breaking this. Human languages are complicated, but I think I can fix it." Veltar watched the young human work. She had somehow improved his translator in just a few minutes, adding functions he didn't even know were possible. As the humans returned to their ship for the night, Veltar stood alone in the docking bay. He looked at their strange, ugly vessel with its practical design and redundant systems. For the first time in his long life, he wondered if the Galactic Council's understanding of intelligence and advancement might be incomplete. The humans had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same.